The afternoon sun settles comfortably above the castle, warming the dark wooden rooftops until they seem almost to glow. Your next assignment appears wonderfully simple. Follow the senior steward. Carry nothing. Speak only if spoken to. Observe carefully. For the first time since waking in this unfamiliar life, your responsibility is not to scrub, polish, carry, or sweep. Instead, your task is to learn. The steward is an elderly man whose silver hair is tied neatly behind his head. His steps are slow, but remarkably steady. Without looking behind, he somehow knows you're keeping pace. He leads you through corridors you haven't yet explored. The castle suddenly feels much larger than you first imagined. From outside, its walls appeared impressive. Inside, however, it unfolds almost like a small wooden town. Hallways branch into courtyards. Courtyards open into gardens. Gardens connect to workshops, kitchens, storage buildings, and quiet living quarters. Every corner has its own purpose. Every building supports another. Nothing exists without reason. The steward finally speaks. A castle, he says softly, is alive. At first, the sentence sounds strange. Buildings aren't alive. Or so you think. But as you continue walking, the meaning slowly becomes clearer. Servants carry fresh water like blood flowing through veins. The kitchens provide warmth like a beating heart. The gardens breathe with the changing seasons. The watchtowers become attentive eyes. Even the gates resemble strong hands protecting everyone inside. The castle truly does feel alive, and every person within it helps keep it healthy. You pass a quiet writing room. Inside, two scholars kneel over long sheets of handmade paper. Their brushes move gracefully, leaving elegant black characters behind. No hurried movements, no crossed-out mistakes. Each stroke appears calm and deliberate. The steward pauses only briefly. Important letters, he whispers. Some will travel to neighboring castles. Others will record taxes. Some simply preserve today's events so future generations will remember them. You smile to yourself. Perhaps somewhere, centuries later, someone will read those careful brushstrokes and imagine life inside these walls. History often survives because someone quietly took the time to write things down. The next room smells wonderfully familiar. Fresh cedar. It is the carpenter's workshop. Several craftsmen sit cross-legged shaping smooth wooden boards with hand planes. Long curling ribbons of fragrant wood gather on the floor like golden streamers. The steady sound fills the room. Shh, shh, shh. No loud machines, only skilled hands and patient tools. One carpenter carefully measures a beam before trimming away only the smallest sliver. Precision matters. A mistake cannot simply be undone. Wood is valuable. Time is valuable. Skill is even more valuable. The steward nods respectfully toward the craftsmen. They repair what time slowly steals. That sentence stays with you. Everything ages. Roofs, doors, floors. Even castles need care. Outside once more, you enter a small inner garden hidden between several buildings. It feels almost secret. Tiny stepping stones wind around a shallow pond. Moss covers shaded rocks like soft green blankets. A single maple tree stretches gently toward the afternoon sky. Although the castle bustles only a short distance away, this place feels completely still. Not silent, still. The breeze rustles leaves. Water quietly trickles from a bamboo fountain. Somewhere above, a small bird sings only a few cheerful notes before flying away again. The steward notices you admiring the garden. This place reminds people to slow their thoughts. You nod without speaking. The garden succeeds almost immediately. For a few moments, your aching shoulders seem lighter. The long morning fades gently from your mind. Perhaps beautiful places truly can change how people feel. You continue deeper into the castle. Now you reach the bathhouse. Warm steam escapes as attendants quietly prepare large wooden tubs. Heating enough water for an entire household is no small task. Firewood must be chopped, water carried, fires carefully tended. Nothing about comfort happens automatically. Even something as relaxing as a hot bath begins with hours of unseen work. The steward smiles slightly. Luxury, he says, usually begins with labor. You find yourself quietly agreeing. Modern life often hides the effort behind everyday comforts. Here, Every comfort has visible hands attached to it. As you leave the bathhouse, the scent changes once again. Sweet incense drifts through the air. Nearby stands a tiny family shrine, tucked inside a peaceful corner of the castle grounds. Fresh flowers rest beside polished wooden offerings. An elderly woman quietly bows before returning to her work. No one interrupts her. Respect for quiet moments seems woven naturally into castle life. The steward does not explain. He simply waits. You instinctively bow your head for a brief moment before continuing on. No grand ceremony. Just a pause. Sometimes that feels enough. The afternoon continues unfolding at its gentle pace. The castle remains busy, yet nowhere does it feel chaotic. The rhythm you've slowly begun noticing since dawn continues without interruption. Someone repairs a roof tile. Someone washes vegetables. Someone sharpens garden shears. Someone teaches an apprentice how to tie a storage knot correctly. Hundreds of tiny responsibilities quietly overlap without getting in one another's way. Watching them all together feels strangely comforting, like listening to rain falling steadily outside your window. No single raindrop matters much. Together they create something peaceful. You begin realizing the castle's greatest strength isn't simply its walls or its warriors. It is cooperation. Every person trusts another to complete today's task. That trust quietly holds everything together. The steward finally stops beneath the shade of a great pine tree, overlooking the central courtyard. Servants cross below carrying baskets, scrolls, buckets, folded robes, and bundles of firewood. From above, their movements resemble careful threads weaving a beautiful tapestry. He turns towards you for the first time, all afternoon. Tomorrow, he says gently, you will notice even more. You glance once more across the castle grounds. This place no longer feels unfamiliar. Slowly, almost without realizing it, it has begun to feel like home. The afternoon sun has begun its slow journey toward the western hills when the senior steward calls your name with a gentle wave of his hand. This time your task lies beyond the castle walls. A small woven basket is placed into your arms. Inside are neatly wrapped bundles of dried herbs, a few folded letters sealed with wax, and several small cloth bags tied with careful knots. Nothing appears especially valuable, yet the steward treats the basket with great care. These must reach the village before evening, he says quietly. You bow. The castle gates slowly open before you. Heavy wooden doors swing outward with a deep, familiar creak. For the first time since arriving in this strange new life, you step beyond the protective walls. Immediately the world feels larger. The castle no longer fills your entire horizon. Rolling hills stretch into the distance. Rice fields shimmer beneath the afternoon sun like enormous mirrors. The breeze carries the fresh scent of wet earth mixed with growing grain. Birds drift lazily overhead. The road beneath your sandals is packed firmly from countless footsteps. Merchants, farmers, travelers, monks, messengers, all have walked this same path long before you. The village rests only a short walk away. Its rooftops peak above clusters of persimmon and plum trees. Thin trails of white smoke rise from cooking fires. Children's laughter floats gently across the fields. It sounds wonderfully ordinary. You had imagined life outside the castle might feel dangerous or dramatic. Instead, it feels peaceful. A farmer notices you approaching. He pauses only long enough to offer a respectful bow before returning to planting young rice shoots in the flooded field. His straw hat shields his face from the afternoon sun. His feet disappear beneath the shallow water. Each movement is slow, steady, patient. You stop for a moment to watch. Plant, step, plant, step. The rhythm reminds you of sweeping the castle floors earlier that morning. Different work, same quiet discipline. Without these endless rows of rice, there would be no meals inside the castle. No strength for the servants, no energy for the samurai. The entire castle depends upon fields like these. A narrow wooden bridge carries you across a gentle stream. Crystal clear water flows over smooth stones. Tiny fish dart beneath the surface. Dragonflies hover just above the water, their wings catching flashes of sunlight. Nearby, a little girl kneels beside the stream filling a wooden bucket. She notices your basket. Her eyes grow curious, then she smiles politely before hurrying back toward the village. Soon the village itself welcomes you. The streets are simple, packed earth paths wind between wooden homes topped with thatched roofs. Open windows allow the delicious smell of cooking rice, grilled vegetables, and fresh bread to drift outside. Dogs nap lazily beneath shady porches. Cats stretch comfortably across warm wooden steps. Unlike the careful silence inside the castle, the village hums gently with conversation, not loud, simply alive. A blacksmith's hammer rings softly from across the square. Clang, pause, clang. Each strike shapes glowing metal into useful tools. Nearby, a potter turns a spinning wheel while shaping wet clay with practiced hands. Bowls slowly rise beneath gentle fingers. Across the lane, a basket weaver patiently threads thin strips of bamboo together. Everywhere you look, someone is creating something useful. The first bundle in your basket belongs to the village herbalist. Her tiny shop smells wonderfully earthy. Bundles of drying plants hang from wooden beams overhead. Small ceramic jars line every shelf. She greets you with a warm smile that reaches her eyes. You've come from the castle. You nod. She accepts the herbs and carefully checks each bundle. They've dried perfectly this season. Her gratitude seems genuine. Before you leave, she quietly places a small packet of fragrant mint into your basket. A gift for the kitchen. Kindness travels both directions, you realize. The next stop is the village carpenter. He receives one of the folded letters. Rather than opening it immediately, he bows respectfully and places it inside his robe. Trust seems remarkably common here. People do not rush to inspect every message. Some things simply wait until the proper moment. As you continue walking, colorful fabrics flutter gently outside a small weaving house. Inside, women guide wooden looms with remarkable skill. Threads of blue, green, brown, and cream slowly become cloth. The steady click, 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 creates another peaceful rhythm joining all the others you've heard today. A little farther along, the village market comes into view. Nothing enormous, only a handful of wooden stalls arranged around an open square. Fresh vegetables rest neatly in woven baskets. Bright oranges, long white radishes, bundles of leafy greens. Nearby, fishermen display their morning catch, packed carefully on beds of cool river reeds. An elderly merchant offers tiny cups of warm tea to passing travelers. No one appears hurried. People greet one another by name. Neighbors pause to exchange small stories. Children weave happily between the stalls before their parents gently call them back. Life feels deeply connected. You suddenly realize that everyone here depends upon someone else. Farmers need blacksmiths. Blacksmiths need carpenters. Carpenters need weavers. The castle depends upon the village. The village depends upon the castle. Like threads woven into a single cloth, each person's work strengthens another's. As the afternoon slowly fades toward evening, temple bells echo softly across the valley. Their deep voices drift over rooftops and fields alike. Many villagers pause briefly. Some bow their heads, others simply smile quietly before returning to their work. No grand interruption. Only a gentle reminder that another peaceful day is slowly passing. Your final delivery takes you to a small Buddhist temple. Standing beneath towering cedar trees at the edge of the village, stone lanterns line the pathway. Colorful flowers bloom beside carefully swept steps. A monk welcomes you with calm eyes and an even calmer smile. He accepts the sealed letter with both hands. "Thank you for making the journey," he says softly. His voice carries the same quiet steadiness you've begun noticing throughout this land. No one rushes words. No one wastes them. Before leaving, you stand for a brief moment beneath the temple gate. A cool breeze moves through the cedar branches overhead. The scent of incense mixes gently with fresh mountain air. The sounds of the village become distant. Only birdsong and rustling leaves remain. You take one slow breath. When you first stepped beyond the castle walls, you expected to discover a completely different world. Instead, you found another piece of the same one. The castle and the village are not separate places. They breathe together, work together, grow together. As the golden light of late afternoon stretches across the road leading home, you lift the now nearly empty basket, turn toward the waiting castle in the distance, and begin the peaceful walk back. carrying not only completed deliveries, but a deeper understanding of the quiet rhythm that binds every life in feudal Japan. The return journey begins beneath a sky painted with warm shades of gold and amber. The afternoon heat has softened, and a cool breeze ripples across the rice fields. Your basket is lighter now, but your thoughts feel fuller. Walking back toward the castle, you notice details you missed before. A farmer straightens his back and watches a flock of white egrets settle beside the flooded paddies. A mother hangs freshly washed cloth outside her home. Children pause their game to bow politely as an elderly monk passes along the road. Life here moves at an unhurried pace. No one seems desperate to race tomorrow. Instead, everyone gives today their full attention. By the time you reach the castle gates, the guards recognize the steward's basket and quietly allow you inside. The evening routine has already begun. Servants carry fresh lantern oil through the corridors. Kitchen fires burn steadily as dinner preparations fill the air with the comforting aromas of rice, grilled fish, mushrooms, and simmering vegetables. Gardeners finish their final tasks before sunset, carefully watering young plants one last time. You are assigned to help prepare the evening lamps. One by one, paper lanterns are cleaned, trimmed, and lit. As daylight fades, warm golden light slowly replaces the sun throughout the castle. The transformation feels magical. The same corridors that looked bright and busy only hours earlier now seem calm and peaceful. The flickering lanterns soften every shadow. The senior steward quietly explains that every season changes these routines. Summer demands extra water and open screens to invite cool breezes. Autumn fills the courtyards with crimson maple leaves that must be swept each morning. Winter begins long before sunrise, as fires are lit to warm the buildings. Spring brings endless cleaning after the heavy rains. The castle never truly stays the same. Instead, it breathes with the seasons. You soon help fold lighter summer robes into cedar chests, while heavier winter garments are carefully inspected for repairs. Nothing is thrown away if it can still be mended. Every object earns years of service. Outside, swallows circle above the rooftops, while the sky slowly changes from gold to deep orange. A temple bell echoes across the valley. Dinner approaches. Before long, servants gather bundles of firewood for the night. Water buckets are refilled. Stable doors are secured. The horses settle quietly into fresh straw. You pause for a brief moment beside the koi pond. The water reflects the first evening stars. A gentle breeze sends small ripples across the surface, turning each reflection into shimmering fragments of light. After only one day, this peaceful rhythm already feels familiar. You realize that life inside a samurai castle is shaped less by grand battles than by countless ordinary moments repeated with care. Each season changes the work. Each day follows the sun. Each task, no matter how small, helps another person. As darkness gently settles across the castle, lanterns glow warmly behind paper windows, and you quietly prepare yourself for another evening of service beneath the calm skies of feudal Japan. The first stars appear quietly above the castle, one by one, like tiny lanterns being lit across the heavens. Down below, the evening routine settles over the household with the same calm rhythm that has guided every hour of the day. No bell announces the change. No loud command echoes through the courtyards. People simply know. The day's work gently transforms into the night's responsibilities. You stand beside a wooden rack filled with paper lanterns. Earlier, you watched experienced servants prepare them. Now it is your turn. An older attendant hands you a small container of lamp oil. "Not too much," he says with a soft smile. "Just enough." You carefully fill each lantern. The paper shades glow amber as tiny flames come to life. One by one, the dark hallways become warm with gentle light. The castle feels different after sunset. During the day, every corner bustles with quiet activity. At night, the same corridors seem slower, softer, almost dreamlike. Your footsteps make only the faintest sound against the polished wood. Outside, crickets begin their evening song. A cool breeze slips through the open walkways, carrying the scent of pine trees and fresh earth after a long, warm afternoon. The senior steward meets you near the central courtyard. "Come," he says. "There is one more lesson before today ends." You follow him toward the highest wooden balcony overlooking the castle grounds. From here, nearly everything is visible. The kitchens still glow with firelight. Stable hands finish brushing the horses. Gardeners put away their tools. A messenger arrives just before the gates close for the night. Guards exchange respectful bows as they begin their evening watch. Nothing feels hurried. Everyone simply completes the final task before resting. The steward folds his hands behind his back. Many people believe a castle is strongest because of its walls. He pauses, looking across the rooftops. But walls do not cook. Walls do not clean. Walls do not care for horses. They do not grow rice. They do not teach children. He smiles gently. People protect the castle. You think back over everything you've seen since waking before dawn. The cooks, the gardeners, the carpenters, the stable workers, the scholars, the farmers beyond the walls, even the monk at the temple. Every one of them quietly supports another. No single person keeps the castle alive. They all do. The thought stays with you as you descend the stairs. Your final duty is wonderfully peaceful. Checking the paper doors. Together with another young servant, you walk through the quiet residential corridors. Each sliding door is closed gently. Each lantern is burning safely. Each hallway is left neat for tomorrow morning. In one room, an elderly servant quietly mends a robe by lantern light. In another, two apprentices practice writing simple characters with brushes before bedtime. Near the kitchen, cooks prepare tomorrow's rice, soaking it carefully in fresh water. Tomorrow's work, you realize, has already begun, even while today is ending. As you pass the garden, you stop for a brief moment. Moonlight now reflects across the koi pond. The colorful fish move slowly beneath the silver surface. A bamboo fountain tips forward. Clack. It fills again. Waits. Then tips once more. Clack. The steady rhythm is almost hypnotic. You understand why gardens like this were treasured. They invite quiet thoughts, not because they are empty, but because they are peaceful. A small owl lands on the branch of a nearby maple tree. It watches the pond silently before disappearing into the night. The castle seems to breathe more slowly now. Dinner has finished. Conversations have grown quieter. Only the distant footsteps of the night watch remain. At last, the steward dismisses you. You've done well today. The words are simple, yet after an entire day spent learning unfamiliar customs, they mean more than you expected. You bow deeply. Walking back toward your small room, you notice that your legs still ache. Your hands are rougher than they were this morning. Your robe carries the scents of cedar, lantern oil, fresh rice, and wood smoke. But something else has changed as well. When you first opened your eyes on the tatami mat, everything felt foreign. Now the sounds of the castle, the bamboo fountain, the crickets, the soft sliding of paper doors already feel familiar. You kneel beside your neatly rolled bedding. Before lying down, you glance once through the small paper window. The moon hangs peacefully above the rooftops of the castle. Tomorrow will begin before sunrise once again. There will be more water to carry, more floors to sweep, more lessons to learn. And somehow, that no longer feels intimidating. It feels like becoming part of something much larger than yourself. The lantern outside your room flickers gently as you close your eyes, while the quiet heartbeat of the castle continues through the peaceful night. Hey guys. Tonight we wake long before the sun even thinks about climbing over the distant hills, in a village where the rooster is less of an alarm clock and more of a strict supervisor who refuses to let anyone sleep in. The morning air is cool enough to sting your nose, the ground beneath your feet is hard-packed earth, and the day ahead already feels heavier than the one you've just finished. If you've ever complained about getting out of bed for school or work, well, you probably won't survive this. In fact, after tonight, your soft mattress may start looking like the greatest invention in human history. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're settling in, let me know your location and your local time down in the comments. It's always fascinating to see where in the world we're all drifting off to sleep together. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You blink slowly as the darkness around you begins to soften into a faint gray glow. There are no glowing phone screens, no alarm clock buzzing on a bedside table, no coffee machine humming in the kitchen. Instead, the first sounds of your morning are wooden beams gently creaking, insects finishing their nightly chorus, and somewhere outside, a rooster announcing another day that nobody asked for. You lie on a simple sleeping mat stuffed with straw that has long since flattened into something closer to woven fabric than a mattress. Every bone in your back politely reminds you that comfort is a luxury few people here have ever imagined. The room is small, very small. Several family members sleep only a few feet away. Privacy, as you know it, simply doesn't exist. The entire house feels alive with quiet breathing, shifting blankets, and the smell of smoke that has seeped into every wooden beam after years of cooking over open fires. You sit up carefully, rubbing tired eyes that never seem completely rested. Yesterday was exhausting. Today promises exactly the same. Outside, the village slowly awakens. Thin streams of smoke begin curling upward from neighboring homes. Dogs wander lazily through narrow dirt paths. Somewhere nearby, someone is already carrying buckets of water balanced across a wooden shoulder pole. Nobody wastes the cool hours before sunrise. Every minute matters. Food doesn't magically appear. Fields don't plant themselves. Firewood doesn't collect itself. In ancient China, especially for ordinary farming families, survival depends on everyone contributing every single day. You quickly discover that life here follows rhythms older than memory itself. The seasons decide everything. Rain decides everything. The river decides everything. And if nature happens to disagree with your plans, there isn't much you can do except work even harder. You step outside into air that smells of damp soil and fresh grass. The eastern horizon glows with soft shades of pale orange. It's beautiful, almost peaceful, but beauty has very little influence on your workload. Before breakfast can even be considered, chores are already waiting. Water must be carried from a nearby well or stream. Animals need feeding. Cooking fires need to be relit from carefully preserved embers. Because creating fire from scratch every morning is slow and precious. Even children know their responsibilities. Nobody asks whether they feel motivated today. Motivation is a modern luxury. Responsibility is ancient. As you watch your neighbors moving silently through the village, one thing becomes obvious. Everyone works. The elderly still weave baskets or prepare meals. Teenagers haul heavy bundles. Young children gather sticks or watch younger siblings. Every pair of hands matters. Every missed task creates problems later. The village itself feels closely connected. Families know one another. Neighbors help during emergencies. Yet life remains surprisingly private in another sense. Every household is quietly fighting its own endless battle against hunger, weather, taxes, illness, and uncertainty. No one knows what next season will bring. One failed harvest can erase years of careful effort. As daylight grows brighter, distant fields slowly emerge from the morning mist. Long rows of crops stretch toward the horizon. Some fields grow millet, others produce wheat. In southern regions, shimmering rice paddies reflect the early sunlight like giant mirrors spread across the countryside. Those rice fields may appear peaceful from a distance. Up close, they're muddy, wet, slippery, and relentlessly demanding. Hours spent bent over in shallow water leave backs aching and legs exhausted. And that's simply normal. No one expects life to be easy. In fact, many people have never experienced anything else. You begin walking toward the fields with several villagers. Nobody talks much. Conversation costs energy. Besides, everyone already knows today's tasks. The path beneath your feet has been walked thousands upon thousands of times by generations before you. Parents, grandparents, great-grandparents. Entire family lines have followed these same trails under the same rising sun. The routine feels almost timeless. As you walk, birds flutter across nearby trees. The countryside slowly fills with life. Oxen pull simple wooden plows. Farmers' shoulder hoes polished smooth by years of use. Women carry woven baskets filled with seeds or supplies. The entire village moves almost like one enormous living machine, not because anyone commands it, because survival quietly demands it. You notice something else. Nobody seems in a hurry. Yet nobody wastes time either. Movements are steady, measured, efficient. Every action has been repeated so many times that it barely requires thought. Modern life often celebrates speed. Ancient life values endurance. That's a very different skill. You don't sprint through your responsibilities. You simply keep going. Hour after hour. Day after day. Year after year. As the sun finally rises above the hills, warmth begins replacing the morning chill. Soon it will become hot. Then exhausting. Then somehow still not enough to stop anyone. Because stopping isn't really an option. The harvest won't wait. The weather certainly won't. And tomorrow's meal depends almost entirely on what you accomplish today. Standing at the edge of the fields, you take one slow breath. The day has barely begun. Already your hands are dirty. Already your muscles feel tight. Already you understand something important. People often imagine ancient history through grand palaces, wise emperors, magnificent temples, and legendary inventions. But for millions of ordinary people, history wasn't built inside royal courts. It was built here. One sunrise, one field, one aching back at a time. And this is only the beginning of your very long back more than 3,000 years to the fertile banks of the Nile, where golden sunlight spills across endless fields, fishermen push their boats into quiet water, and towering temples seem to promise a civilization filled with wealth and wonder. From a distance, ancient Egypt looks like paradise. Massive pyramids scrape the horizon, colorful markets buzz with life, and the mighty river appears generous enough to feed an entire kingdom. But the moment you open your eyes as an ordinary Egyptian, that beautiful picture starts to crack. Before breakfast, you're already worrying about the flood, the heat, the taxes, and whether a crocodile is waiting where you fetch your water. In other words, you probably won't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're settling in, let me know your location and your local time in the comments. It's always fascinating to see where everyone is listening from as we take these sleepy journeys through history. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your day begins long before the sun climbs above the eastern horizon. There is no alarm clock, no gentle ringtone, and certainly no chance of sleeping in. Instead, the faint crowing of birds, distant voices, and the cool morning breeze creeping through the cracks of your mud-brick home quietly pull you awake. The floor beneath you is hard. Your blanket is simple. Dust has found its way into almost every corner of the house. Luxury belongs to nobles and priests. For you, comfort is measured by whether the roof stayed intact through the night. You stretch slowly, feeling yesterday's work still lingering in your shoulders. Farming beside the Nile is rewarding only because it keeps you alive. Every handful of grain, every basket of vegetables, every loaf of bread comes from endless hours of labor beneath a blazing sky. Outside, the village is already stirring. Neighbors greet one another softly as smoke begins rising from cooking fires. Someone carries clay jars toward the river. Another sharpens a wooden farming tool worn smooth after years of use. Children, still rubbing sleep from their eyes, prepare to help their parents instead of heading to school. Here, survival itself is the greatest lesson anyone can learn. The air is surprisingly cool for now, but everyone knows the relief won't last. Within a few hours, the Egyptian sun will transform the landscape into a furnace. You glance toward the Nile. Even before reaching its banks, you understand why your entire life depends on that ribbon of water. Without it, nothing here could exist. Beyond the fertile strip stretches an unforgiving desert, endless waves of sand where very little survives. The Nile is more than a river. It is the heartbeat of your world. Yet depending on the Nile also means living at its mercy. Some years the flood arrives just right, leaving behind rich black soil that promises healthy harvests. Other years the waters rise too high, washing away homes and fields. And sometimes they barely rise at all, leaving cracked earth where crops should have been growing. Every season begins with hope, but never certainty. As you follow the worn footpath toward the river, you notice footprints pressed into the damp mud, not only from villagers, but from animals that visited overnight. Some belong to cattle. Others belong to creatures you'd rather not meet in daylight. You instinctively scan the calm surface of the water. Ancient Egyptians respected the Nile, but they never forgot that it hid powerful predators beneath its peaceful appearance. To someone visiting thousands of years later, the sunrise would seem breathtakingly beautiful. To you, beauty is secondary. Your first concern is making it safely through another ordinary day. You kneel beside the river, filling a heavy clay jar as carefully as you can. The water is cool against your hands, a welcome contrast to the warmth already building in the morning air. Around you, dozens of other villagers do exactly the same thing. Nobody wastes time chatting. Water is too important. Every drop you carry home will be used wisely, for drinking, cooking, cleaning, mixing clay, or watering small garden plots. The jar feels surprisingly heavy as you lift it onto your shoulder. By the time you reach home, your muscles are already beginning to ache, and the day has barely started. This is perhaps the greatest misunderstanding people have about ancient Egypt. They picture glittering gold masks, magnificent temples, and mighty pharaohs. But almost none of that belongs to your everyday life. Your world is made of mud brick walls, woven baskets, rough linen clothing, and endless chores that repeat with almost perfect consistency. Breakfast is simple. A piece of coarse bread, perhaps some onions, maybe a few dates if the harvest has been generous. Meat is rare. Sweet treats are rarer still. You eat not because the meal is exciting, but because your body will soon demand every bit of strength it can get. Outside, the village grows louder. Oxen are led toward the fields. Donkeys carry baskets filled with tools. Children run errands before joining adults at work. Even the elderly find small tasks to keep themselves useful. There is little room for idleness when everyone's survival depends on cooperation. You pick up a wooden hoe, worn smooth by years of use. Iron tools don't exist yet. Bronze is valuable and difficult to obtain. Most farming equipment is simple, requiring more human effort than clever engineering. Every row of grain represents countless swings of your arms beneath an unforgiving sky. As the sun rises higher, the cool breeze disappears. Heat settles over the valley like a thick blanket. Sweat begins soaking your linen tunic. Dust sticks to your skin. Tiny insects buzz around your face, refusing to leave you alone no matter how often you wave them away. There are no shaded tractors, no irrigation pumps humming in the background, no machines to lighten the workload, only people. People pulling, people lifting, people digging, people enduring. From where you stand, the Nile sparkles beautifully, but even beauty demands caution. Somewhere beneath that calm surface, crocodiles drift silently through the water. Hippopotamuses, far more dangerous than their peaceful appearance suggests, can overturn boats or charge without warning. Everyone knows someone who disappeared near the river. No dramatic legends are needed. Real life provides enough cautionary tales. As the morning stretches toward noon, your thoughts rarely wander toward dreams or adventure. Instead, they focus on practical questions. Will this year's harvest be enough? Will your roof survive another rainy season? Will your family stay healthy? Will the tax collectors demand more grain than you can spare? Every answer feels uncertain. Yet somehow, generation after generation, people continue working these same fields. Perhaps resilience becomes easier when there is no alternative. The great monuments that future civilizations will admire are still only distant symbols of royal power. From your perspective, survival isn't about creating history. It's about making it safely to tomorrow. The afternoon stretches on with little mercy. The sun now hangs almost directly overhead, turning the fields into a shimmering sea of light. Every breath feels warmer than the last, and the dry wind offers no relief. You wipe sweat from your forehead, only for another layer to appear moments later. If someone from the modern world stood here for even an hour, they would probably begin searching for shade, a cold drink, or an air-conditioned room. You have none of those luxuries. Instead, you keep working. The grain will not harvest itself, and the Nile waits for no one. Each swing of your wooden hoe sends little clouds of dust into the air. The rich black soil left behind by the annual flood is fertile, but keeping it productive demands endless effort. Weeds must be pulled. Irrigation channels must stay clear. Every patch of land needs constant attention if your family is to have enough food for the coming months. Nearby, another farmer calls out. A narrow irrigation ditch has become blocked with mud, preventing water from reaching part of the field. Without hesitation, several villagers gather with simple wooden shovels. Nobody argues over whose job it is. If one field fails, everyone in the village feels the consequences sooner or later. So together, you dig. The work is slow and repetitive, but eventually the muddy barrier gives way. Fresh Nile water trickles through the channel, spreading life across thirsty soil. For a brief moment, everyone smiles. Small victories matter here. You pause only long enough to take a sip from your clay water jar. The water is no longer cool, warmed by the relentless Egyptian heat, but it is precious all the same. Every swallow reminds you how fortunate you are to have access to the Nile. Beyond the green valley lies endless desert, where survival becomes nearly impossible. Looking toward the horizon, you notice something remarkable. Far in the distance, enormous stone structures rise against the bright blue sky. Their outlines are softened by shimmering heat, but they are unmistakable. Great monuments built to honor kings and prepare them for eternity. To future generations, they will become symbols of one of history's greatest civilizations. To you, they are simply part of the landscape. You don't spend much time admiring them. After all, monuments don't plant crops. They don't repair broken roofs. And they certainly don't carry heavy water jars back to your house. The afternoon continues. Your hands grow rougher with every season. Tiny cuts from reeds, stones, and farming tools are common. Most heal on their own, though some become infected. Even a small injury can become dangerous in a world without modern medicine. Still, complaining changes nothing. The village has learned to accept discomfort as part of everyday life. As shadows slowly begin to lengthen, birds return to the riverbanks, searching for fish in the shallows. The air becomes slightly cooler, and a gentle breeze finally stirs the tops of the papyrus plants. You straighten your aching back. Another day's work is nearly finished. But tomorrow will look almost exactly the same. The Nile will rise and fall. The crops will continue growing. The taxes will still come. The sun will still burn. And you will wake before dawn once again, hoping that hard work, a little luck, and the generosity of the great river will carry you safely into another day. Because in ancient Egypt, surviving isn't achieved through one heroic moment. It's earned quietly, one sunrise at a time. The sun finally begins its slow journey toward the western horizon. For the first time all day, the heat loosens its grip ever so slightly. Long shadows stretch across the fields, and the bright golden light softens into deep shades of amber. You straighten your back once again, feeling every muscle complain after hours of bending, lifting, digging, and walking. No one announces that the workday is over. Instead, everyone simply senses it. One by one, the villagers gather their wooden tools. Oxen are guided toward their shelters. Donkeys plod slowly along dusty paths, carrying baskets that feel much heavier now than they did this morning. You begin the walk home. The distance is not great, but after a full day of labor, every step feels longer than the last. As you pass neighboring fields, you notice families finishing their own work. Some laugh quietly as children race ahead down the path. Others remain silent, too tired to speak. A few stop to inspect tomorrow's tasks, knowing there will always be more waiting when the sun rises again. The Nile glows like polished bronze beneath the evening light. Its gentle current seems peaceful now, almost inviting. Birds skim across the surface in search of their final meal before nightfall. Small fishing boats drift toward the village, their crews hoping the day's catch will be enough to feed their families. You can't help but admire the beauty. Yet you also know beauty can be deceptive. The same river that gives your village life can also take it away. Floods may destroy homes. Crocodiles still patrol the shallows. Disease can spread through the water without warning. Every blessing carries a hidden risk. That balance defines your entire existence. By the time you reach your mud brick home, smoke curls lazily from nearby cooking fires. The familiar smell of freshly baked bread mixes with roasting fish, onions, herbs, and warm earth still releasing the day's heat. Home is humble. The walls are made from dried mud mixed with straw. The roof is supported by wooden beams covered with reeds and clay. The floor is packed dirt, swept carefully each evening to keep away dust and insects. It isn't grand, but it is yours. Inside, your family has already begun preparing the evening meal. A clay lamp flickers gently, casting dancing shadows across the walls. Woven baskets hang neatly beside simple wooden stools. Clay jars filled with grain and water line one corner of the room. The meal is modest. Fresh bread, onions, a few vegetables, perhaps some dried fish, if fortune smiled on the fishermen today. No one complains. After such a long day, even the simplest food tastes satisfying. Conversation is quiet. You talk about the condition of the fields, tomorrow's weather, a neighbor whose roof needs repair, and rumors that officials may soon visit the village to measure the harvest. Life rarely changes quickly here. Every season follows familiar rhythms: plant, water, harvest, store, begin again. As darkness slowly settles across the Nile Valley, the air finally becomes comfortable. A cool breeze slips through the doorway, carrying the scent of wet reeds from the riverbank. Somewhere outside, crickets begin their nightly chorus. You step outside for one final look at the sky. Thousands of stars appear above the desert. Without city lights, they shine with breathtaking clarity. You don't know the scientific names of the constellations, but you know these stars have guided travelers, marked seasons, and watched over generations of Egyptians long before your birth. Tomorrow, they will still be here. And so, if fortune allows, so will you. The village slowly grows quieter. One by one, the cooking fires shrink into glowing embers, and the conversations outside fade into gentle whispers. The day's endless rhythm of footsteps, splashing water, creaking carts, and calling farmers finally comes to an end. Even the animals seem grateful for the coolness of the evening. You settle onto a woven reed mat. Your body feels wonderfully heavy. The ache in your shoulders reminds you of every basket you carried, every furrow you dug, and every step you took beneath the relentless Egyptian sun. There is no luxury mattress waiting for you, yet exhaustion has a way of making even the simplest resting place feel inviting. Outside, the Nile continues flowing exactly as it has for countless generations. It never hurries, it never stops. Its quiet current slips through the darkness, carrying tomorrow's hopes along with yesterday's memories. You think about everything that had to go right today. The river remained calm. No crocodile wandered too close. The irrigation channels held. The crops survived another scorching afternoon. Your family has enough food for one more day. When you list those blessings, you realize something remarkable. In ancient Egypt, surviving rarely depends on dramatic adventures. More often, it depends on hundreds of tiny successes that most people never notice. A healthy harvest, a sturdy roof, clean water, helpful neighbors, strong oxen, little good fortune. Remove just one of those pieces, and life becomes far more difficult. That is why every ordinary day feels like a quiet victory. As sleep begins to pull at your thoughts, your mind drifts toward tomorrow. You already know what it will bring. Before sunrise, birds will sing again. The cool morning breeze will slip through the cracks of your mud brick home. Someone will light the first cooking fire. Clay jars will once again be carried to the Nile. Farmers will shoulder their tools. Children will help their parents without complaint. The desert sun will climb higher, and another cycle of work, patience, and endurance will begin. It has happened this way for generations. It may continue this way for generations more. Future travelers will marvel at towering pyramids, magnificent temples, glittering treasures, and beautifully painted tombs. They will call ancient Egypt one of history's greatest civilizations. And they will be right. But those wonders were only possible because millions of ordinary people quietly lived lives much like yours. They planted grain, they repaired homes, they baked bread, they carried water, they accepted hardships that would seem almost unimaginable today. History often remembers the names of kings, yet civilizations are truly built by people whose names are forgotten. People like you. As you close your eyes, the cool night breeze drifts softly through the doorway. Somewhere beyond the village, frogs croak along the riverbank, insects hum in the reeds, and the endless Nile continues its peaceful journey beneath a sky filled with brilliant stars. For one precious moment, there are no taxes to pay, no fields to weed, no heavy jars to lift, no burning sun overhead. Only silence. Only the steady breathing of your family. Only the comforting knowledge that you survived another ordinary day in one of the most extraordinary civilizations the world has ever known. And here, perhaps, lies the greatest surprise of all. Surviving ancient Egypt was rarely about escaping epic disasters or fighting legendary battles. It was about waking before dawn, working until sunset, trusting the Nile, relying on your neighbors, and hoping that tomorrow would be just a little kinder than today. That quiet determination, repeated day after day, year after year, is what truly... Tonight we settle into a story that begins in the brightest hospital hallway you've ever imagined, where the polished floors reflect harsh white lights, machines hum like restless insects, and every quiet footstep seems to carry news that could change a family's life forever. You're standing there, hands wrapped around a paper cup that's gone cold hours ago, staring at a closed hospital door while your heart races faster than the clock on the wall. It feels as though the entire world has narrowed into this single moment. And, judging by how tonight starts, you probably won't survive this. Well, at least not without shedding a tear or two, and maybe deciding hospital coffee should officially be classified as a punishment. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're here, leave a comment telling everyone where you're listening from and what your local time is. It's always comforting to see people from every corner of the world sharing these quiet moments together. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You never imagined your life would become measured by waiting rooms. Not birthdays, not holidays, not anniversaries. Just waiting rooms. The blue plastic chair beneath you has become strangely familiar over the past few weeks. You know exactly which vending machine gets stuck after pressing the button for bottled water. You know which nurse smiles first thing in the morning and which security guard quietly hums old songs during his night shift. These little details become anchors, because everything else feels uncertain. Only a month ago, life seemed wonderfully ordinary. You complained about traffic, you forgot grocery lists, you laughed over silly television shows. You made plans for weekends that now feel impossibly far away. Then came the headaches. At first they seemed harmless. Stress, everyone said. Too much work, not enough sleep, nothing serious. But headaches became dizzy spells. The dizzy spells became weakness. Weakness became collapse. And suddenly ordinary life disappeared behind ambulance doors and flashing emergency lights. Now you're here. The doctor steps into the hallway. His face tells the story before his words do. Years of experience have taught him how to soften impossible conversations, yet nothing truly softens them. He walks toward you carefully. "I'm sorry," he begins. Those two words seem to slow time itself. The hallway becomes strangely silent. You hear the air conditioner, a distant phone ringing, someone laughing far away in another corridor, completely unaware that your world is changing forever. The doctor explains every scan, every blood test, every specialist's opinion, every treatment already considered. His voice remains calm, professional, gentle. Yet every sentence feels heavier than the last. The illness is aggressive. The damage is extensive. The available treatments are limited. No one can promise recovery. No one can even promise tomorrow. Hope, he says carefully, is becoming very small. Very small. What a strange phrase. As though hope could be measured with a ruler. As though someone could calculate it on a medical chart. You nod politely because you don't know what else to do. Your mind hears every word but refuses to accept any of them. People often imagine devastating moments arriving with dramatic music or thunder outside. Real life isn't like that. Sometimes the worst news arrives beneath bright fluorescent lights while someone down the hallway argues about parking validation. The ordinary world keeps moving. Only yours stops. You thank the doctor. Why do people always say thank you after terrible news? Perhaps because kindness still matters. Perhaps because grace survives even heartbreaking conversations. Or perhaps because words fail, leaving only habit behind. You walk toward the patient's room. Every step feels heavier. The door opens quietly. Inside, the room is peaceful. Machines blink steadily. Soft beeping fills the silence. The person you love rests with closed eyes, looking almost peaceful despite everything happening beneath the surface. It's strange how illness can leave someone's face looking almost unchanged, while completely transforming everyone around them. You pull a chair closer. You reach for their hand. It's warm, familiar, comforting. You whisper that you're here. You promise you're not leaving, even though you have absolutely no idea what tomorrow holds. Outside, evening slowly settles across the city. Cars continue driving home, restaurants fill with laughter. Children finish homework, neighbors walk their dogs. Life continues for everyone else. Yet inside this quiet hospital room, time seems suspended between fear and faith. You remember something your grandmother once said. Sometimes, she would smile. The longest nights teach us to recognize the smallest lights. At the time, it sounded like one of those comforting sayings older people collected over the years. Now those words return unexpectedly, not because they erase fear. They don't. Heartbeat at a time. You haven't slept. Perhaps you closed your eyes for a few minutes while sitting in the chair beside the bed, but every unfamiliar sound pulled you awake again. A nurse quietly checks the patient's temperature. She smiles kindly. Good morning. You almost forget to answer. Morning doesn't feel good, not yet. Still, you return the smile. Kindness has become one of the few things that costs nothing, but somehow means everything. Outside the window, people hurry toward work. Parents walk children to school. Cyclists weave through traffic. Somewhere, someone is celebrating a birthday. Somewhere else, another family is laughing over breakfast. It's strange how the world can contain joy and heartbreak at exactly the same moment. You glance back toward the bed. The face you know so well looks peaceful. Almost too peaceful. Machines quietly do what the body struggles to do alone. Each soft beep fills the room like the ticking of an invisible clock. You begin noticing every number displayed on the monitors. Heart rate, blood pressure, oxygen level. Numbers become your new language. When they rise, your heart rises. When they fall, your stomach tightens. You never expected numbers could carry so much emotion. Later that morning, another doctor visits. Not the same one from yesterday. This doctor reviews charts carefully, speaks with the nurses, examines every detail with practiced precision. When finished, he offers a gentle nod. We'll continue monitoring. Such a simple sentence. Not good news. Not bad news. Just waiting. Hospitals teach people that waiting can become its own full-time job. Waiting for test results. Waiting for specialists. Waiting for phone calls. Waiting for another sunrise. Even hope seems to wait. Family members begin arriving. One brings fresh clothes. Another brings homemade food that nobody really feels like eating. Someone quietly places flowers near the window. Their bright colors seem almost out of place among the white walls and silver medical equipment. Yet they brighten the room. Small things matter now. A flower. A smile. A warm blanket. A familiar voice. Every little comfort becomes unexpectedly precious. As afternoon settles in, visitors come and go. Some speak confidently. Everything will be okay. Others remain silent, because they understand that sometimes silence is the kindest response. One elderly uncle simply places his hand on your shoulder. He says nothing. His quiet presence somehow says more than words ever could. Hours pass. The hospital grows busier. Phones ring. Wheelchairs roll across polished floors. Elevators open and close endlessly. Life inside a hospital never truly stops. It simply changes rhythm from one room to another. You decide to take a short walk. Only 5 minutes, maybe 10. Fresh air might help clear your thoughts. Outside the hospital entrance, the afternoon breeze feels almost unfamiliar. The sunlight warms your face. Cars pass by. Birds perch on nearby trees. You hadn't noticed birds singing in days. Nature continues its gentle routine, regardless of human fear. For a brief moment, you close your eyes, not to escape reality, only to breathe. Deep in, slowly out. You whisper a prayer, not a complicated one. Not filled with perfect words. Simply, God, I don't understand. I'm afraid. Please stay with us. That's all. No dramatic speech, no bargaining, just honesty. Sometimes honest prayers are the strongest ones. Returning inside, you notice something taped to the children's ward wall. A colorful drawing. Crayons. Bright rainbows. A smiling sun. Across the top, written in uneven handwriting. Never stop believing. A child probably made it. Simple words. Simple art. Yet somehow they linger in your thoughts. Believing doesn't erase pain. Believing doesn't instantly change circumstances. But believing gives frightened hearts somewhere to stand when everything else feels unstable. Evening approaches once more. The hospital lights gradually become brighter as daylight fades outside. Dinner trays arrive. The smell reminds you that you haven't eaten much. You force yourself to take a few bites. Strength is needed, even by those doing the waiting. The patient stirs slightly. Just a small movement, barely noticeable. Still, your heart races. You gently lean closer. The eyes remain closed. Nothing dramatic happens. Yet somehow that tiny movement feels enormous. Hope often returns quietly. Not through fireworks, not through grand announcements. Sometimes hope arrives as nothing more than a single squeeze of a hand. A gentle breath. A tiny movement beneath warm blankets. Night falls again. The city lights begin glowing outside the hospital windows. Rain softly taps against the glass. The hallway grows quieter than before. A young nurse enters carrying fresh blankets. She notices the family still gathered. "You've all been here a long time," she says gently. You nod. "We're staying." She smiles. "I'm sure they're grateful." Those words remain with you after she leaves. Grateful. Maybe the patient can't speak. Maybe they can't open their eyes. But love doesn't always require conversation. Sometimes simply remaining present becomes its own language. You settle back into the familiar chair. The same room, the same uncertainty, yet something feels ever so slightly different tonight. Fear is still there. It hasn't disappeared. Questions remain unanswered. Doctors still don't know what tomorrow will bring. But the crushing loneliness from yesterday has softened just enough to allow room for something else. Not confidence, not certainty. Just quiet companionship. The family, the nurses, kind strangers. And a gentle belief that even in the longest night, no one truly walks alone. Outside, the rain continues falling. Inside, machines continue humming. You look toward the sleeping face once again. Then you whisper into the quiet room, "We'll be here when you wake." And for the first time since hearing those impossible words from the doctor, you almost believe tomorrow may hold something different. The third morning arrives so quietly that you almost miss it. There is no dramatic change, no sudden celebration, no miraculous announcement echoing through the hospital corridors. Instead, the world wakes the same way it always has. The elevator doors slide open. Breakfast carts roll across polished floors. Someone laughs softly at the nurse's station. The smell of fresh coffee drifts through the hallway. Life continues with its ordinary rhythm. And somehow, that ordinary rhythm begins calming your restless heart. Not because everything is better. It isn't. The doctors still speak carefully. The machines still hum. The uncertainty still hangs over every conversation like a cloud that refuses to move. But something inside you has changed. Yesterday, fear occupied every corner of your thoughts. Today, fear still exists. But it is no longer alone. Hope has quietly taken a seat beside it. You don't know exactly when it happened. Maybe during that simple prayer outside. Maybe while staring at the child's colorful drawing that read, "Never stop believing." Or maybe it happened little by little, one heartbeat at a time. The morning nurse enters carrying fresh blankets. She notices you're already awake. "You really should get some rest," she says gently. You smile. "I will." Neither of you truly believes that. Still, kindness is sometimes enough. After checking the patient's vitals, she pauses before leaving. "You know," she says thoughtfully, "I've worked here for nearly 20 years. You look up. I've seen medicine do amazing things." She hesitates. "And I've also seen hope keep families together when medicine couldn't explain everything." She isn't promising anything. She isn't predicting the future. She simply offers wisdom gathered through years of watching people survive impossible seasons. Her words stay with you long after she leaves. Hope keeps families together. Maybe hope isn't only about outcomes. Maybe it's also about refusing to let fear decide who you become. Later that afternoon, a volunteer walks through the hallway with a small rolling cart, books, crossword puzzles, children's coloring pages, simple gifts for patients and waiting families. She smiles warmly. "Would you like a book?" You almost decline. Reading feels impossible. Your thoughts already fill every corner of your mind. But then one thin hardcover catches your attention. Its cover shows a lighthouse standing against a storm. You quietly borrow it. You don't even open it for another hour. When you finally do, the first sentence reads, "A lighthouse doesn't stop the storm. It simply gives people something steady to look toward." You pause. You read the sentence again. Then a third time. Something about those words settles gently inside you. Faith perhaps isn't always about escaping life's storms. Sometimes it's about discovering where to keep looking while the storm continues. Evening approaches. The doctor returns with another update. The scans show no major improvement, but no significant worsening either. The word "but" feels unexpectedly powerful. Yesterday there seemed to be only endings. Today there is at least another tomorrow. The family gathers once more. No one celebrates. No one cries. Instead, everyone quietly exchanges grateful glances. Sometimes simply hearing "no worse" feels like receiving precious hope. Night falls again. Hospital lights glow softly against the dark windows. Rain has stopped. The city sparkles beyond the glass. You decide to read more from the Lighthouse book. Each page speaks about perseverance, about continuing forward even when the destination remains hidden. One paragraph says, "Courage rarely feels heroic while you're living it." You smile faintly. That feels true. Movies often show courage with dramatic speeches. Real courage looks different. Real courage brings coffee to tired relatives. It answers difficult phone calls. It smiles politely at nurses after another sleepless night. It keeps holding someone's hand when there are no guarantees. The patient suddenly takes a deeper breath. Just one. The nurse notices immediately. She calmly checks the monitor. Everything remains stable. Perhaps it means nothing. Perhaps it means something. No one knows. Still, the room somehow feels lighter afterward. Hours later, as midnight quietly approaches, the hospital becomes unusually peaceful. Most visitors have gone home. The hallway grows still. Only the gentle sounds of machines and distant footsteps remain. You stand beside the window. The moon hangs high above the sleeping city. Tiny lights twinkle from homes scattered across the horizon. Behind each light is another story. Another family. Another struggle. Another prayer. You suddenly realize something. You are not the only person carrying heavy burdens tonight. Somewhere nearby, another family is waiting outside another hospital room. Someone else is praying for healing. Someone else is hoping for one more tomorrow. That thought doesn't make your pain smaller, but it makes your heart softer. You whisper another prayer, not asking this time, simply listening. The room remains quiet. No voice answers. No dramatic sign appears. Only silence. Yet somehow, the silence doesn't feel empty anymore. It feels peaceful, as though you are no longer carrying everything by yourself. The patient remains asleep, their breathing steady, their hands still resting gently in yours. You squeeze it lightly. "I believe we're not finished yet," you whisper. The words surprise even you, because for the first time since this journey began, you truly mean them. Outside, the stars continue shining. Inside, hope grows almost invisibly, not loud enough for the world to notice, not strong enough to erase every fear, but steady enough to guide one more step into tomorrow, like a lighthouse standing quietly through the storm. Morning arrives with a gentle rain. Tiny drops slide down the hospital window, tracing winding paths across the glass before disappearing from sight. The gray clouds soften the sunlight, wrapping the room in a peaceful glow that feels almost comforting. You wake with a stiff neck. Sometime during the night, sleep finally found you for an hour or two, not because your worries disappeared, but because your body simply couldn't stay awake any longer. The chair beside the hospital bed has become strangely familiar now. You know exactly where to place your jacket as a pillow. You know which corner of the room catches the first morning light. You even recognize the distant sounds of different hospital carts before they appear. Life has become wonderfully small, not because your world has shrunk, because your attention has. Every little moment matters now. Every smile, every heartbeat, every quiet breath. The patient remains asleep, peaceful, still. The steady rhythm of the monitor continues, filling the room with quiet reassurance. Beep, pause. Beep, pause. The sound no longer frightens you. Instead, it feels almost comforting, like a faithful companion refusing to leave. The morning doctor arrives carrying today's chart. His expression is thoughtful. He studies every monitor, reviews every number, listens carefully through his stethoscope. Then he smiles, not broadly but enough for you to notice. We're holding steady. 3 simple words. Holding steady, not healed, not recovered, but not slipping backward either. Sometimes progress doesn't look like climbing a mountain. Sometimes progress is simply refusing to fall. You thank him. This time, your gratitude feels different. Yesterday you thanked doctors because you didn't know what else to say. Today you thank them because every person in this building is quietly carrying someone else's burden. That deserves appreciation. As the doctor leaves, another family enters the hallway outside.